Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.
Well, if you're known for something in business,
right,
and you're like the best or one of the very best at what you do, you then become the person that's the go-to person in your space.
I'm your host, Chaz Wilson. I bring you successful entrepreneurs, add valuable wisdom to your journey, and help you succeed. Welcome to Connect, Share, and Prosper.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 114 of Connect, Share, Prosper. Super excited to be with you today. As always, every Monday, noon central, bringing you important guests, entrepreneurs, business leaders, thought leaders, who are going to share their ups, downs, the successes, the struggles, all of it with you today. Hey, as you hop on and you share this, please do. And let me know who's here, where you're from. EJ, welcome from the Gulf Coast. Welcome, EJ. EJ's first. We need to get him a prize out today. He was first to hop in and tell us where he's from. Bill, welcome from Central Illinois. Make sure you share this podcast. We're going to dive deep into some amazing topics today. I think very timely in our message and probably very timeless. This will go on for quite some time. Ricardo, welcome. Guys, share the podcast out if you would. Give us some likes before I introduce my guest here. Gary LaRue from Texas, welcome. Welcome everybody to the podcast today. Let's see, we got Gary here, Bill, EJ. Guys, appreciate you. Much love. And Patricia, welcome. John Reed from Florida. Man, people are hopping on. Love it. So please share it if you would, while I introduce my guest today on Connect, Share, Prosper, as we've already crossed the 70 mark on the viewership here. So we love it. Please share it. Please keep it going. Let me introduce my guest today. Nicky Billou is the master of the mindset. He spent the last 20 years figuring out the mindset of champions, and he's worked with athletes and entrepreneurs at the highest level, from Olympic gold to billionaires. One of the most respected experts in thought leadership today, Nicky is the creator of Heart Leadership. He's the #1 international best-selling author of the book Finish Line Thinking: How to Think and Win Like a Champion. Nicky is the founder of eCircle Academy, where he and Teresa Dugwell run a year-long mastermind and educational program working with coaches, consultants, corporate trainers, and entrepreneurs, positioning them as authorities in their niche. And $1 Million Clinic, where they help clinic owners add 6 to 7 figures a year to their income while working 10 to 20 hours less per week. As the host of the #1 podcast in the world on thought leadership, the Thought Leader Revolution, Nicky has interviewed over 200 of the world's top thought leaders, such as Mark Victor Hansen, John Maxwell, Ivan Misner, Jack Canfield, Scott Adams, Oprah's coach Marie Forleo, and Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank. Born in Tehran, Iran, Nicky has lived in 5 countries, guys, on 3 continents, and now calls Toronto, Ontario his home. Please help me welcome Nicky Billou. Nicky, welcome to Connect, Share, Prosper, my friend.
Chaz, man, it's an honor to be here. I'm so grateful to be here and have a chance to visit with you and with your audience.
Well, this is great. We have a large audience today. We're just about, looks like we're going to hit 200 live views here right now, so we got a good audience. Listen, I want to start, though, for a second, if you don't mind, talking about the fact that you were born in Tehran, Iran, and you immigrated. How old were you when you immigrated?
We left Iran when I was 13. I just turned 13, actually 12 days after my 13th birthday.
Wow. So tell us a little bit what that was like. I mean, at 13, some people leave where they were born, sometimes as infants or young children, and they don't have much of a memory. But at 13, you were old enough to kind of understand what was happening and what it was like, and probably have some memories of that. So just give us some perspective of that.
Well, I'll tell you, it's wonderful that you've asked that question. In 1978, the fall of 78, the Iranian Revolution began. And by February 79, a 2,500-year monarchy had been overthrown. And to me, I became absolutely fascinated at how that could be possible, how a strong, relatively liberal, at least for the Middle East government, could be overthrown, and then overthrown by folks who said they wanted freedom, but actually made the country a lot more repressive than it was.
Yeah.
We came to the West because we wanted freedom for ourselves. And my mom and dad were Christians. We were a overwhelmingly majority Muslim country, and we just all felt that it was time to leave. I mean, for me, it was hard to leave because I had my friends and I was a kid and I thought we'd get to come back. But the truth of the matter was my mom and dad wanted us to live in a free society. So we initially went to Greece for 2 years while we waited to be given permission to go to Canada. And the most beautiful part about coming to Canada, coming to the Free West, Chaz, is that people here get to pursue their dreams.
Yes.
They get to speak freely. That's why I believe so strongly in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, because anybody can speak their mind. If you spoke out against the government in Iran, you would be hauled off to jail. You'd be beaten to within an inch of your life. You could actually lose your life. Many Iranians who were dissidents have lost their lives over the years. And not just in Iran, but in countries all over the world, which is why I'm so grateful to live in the Free West. And my dad was an entrepreneur. My mom has been working as a professional real estate salesperson for over 30 years. Prior to that, she was a nurse.
Yes.
My dad and my mom really always valued people working hard and making a difference for their families and for the world. And my father's private boast was, my friend, that he had over 50 families that he got to feed as a result of the companies that he owned. And to me, I believe free enterprise is the most moral and noble system in the world. In fact, it is only free enterprise that creates opportunity. Socialism is a fool's errand. It's fool's gold.
Yes.
The folks who promote socialism are really promoting an elite having all the money, and then they're promoting the rest of us staying poor, and they're fooling us into thinking this is a good thing. But free enterprise is where it's at. And I got to tell you, Chas, for me, the most powerful, the most important thing that I want to do, my mission right now, is I want to create such a strong constituency for free enterprise that it is going to be the only system that people are going to want to be a part of. And my vision, my friend, I got a crazy, big, vast vision. And our mutual friend, Mark Victor Hansen, is the one who's encouraged me to think big. I want 1 billion millionaires in the world.
Oh, I love it.
1 billion millionaires. Now, I'm not enough to do that. You and me together aren't enough to do that. But I'll tell you, I want to do my part, everything in my power. That's why I write the books that I write, Finish Line Thinking. Thank you for plugging that. That's why I wrote The Thought Leader's Journey for people who are looking to take the journey from working for somebody to owning their own business. And by the way, they can get a free copy of this. I can share the link with you later. They can get a free downloadable copy of this later on. And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm telling you what, my friend, we here have a mission to create a constituency for free enterprise, to create a constituency for freedom. The only way that's going to happen is if we help more people be successful.
I love it.
As an immigrant to this country, to this part of the world, I am especially wanting to help all immigrants, all folks who have traditionally been in disadvantaged communities. You deserve to be rich.
Yes.
You deserve to be rich.
Let me ask you. Thank you for that, and I appreciate you talking here while I was trying to fix my camera. I lost my camera. I think my team, who's working remote, who took over the computer screen, and then half the team came in here to quick troubleshoot the camera. I don't know what happened, but so listen. I mean, obviously, you're growing up in that kind of environment. You talked about living in Iran, where you're a Christian family, and trying to navigate that and oppressed a little bit. So looking for freedom and opportunities. So it's interesting to me, and you and I, this is, I think, as you talked about, when Mark Victor Hansen said, hey, you two need to connect. And I think it was probably about 3 minutes on the phone, the first phone call, it was pretty clear that both of us are free enterprise warriors. We're both understand the benefit of free enterprise. But it's a tough time right now in economic environment to be a free enterprise warrior. Like, there's so much handout. There's so much. I mean, quite honestly, there's, language is important. There's a lot of policy that people are looking at as law, mandates, requirements. No, just because it's recommended doesn't mean I'm required. And those are the kinds of things. And so what's happened is those kinds of policies are impacting local business right now. We're a big proponent of local business. I think there's nothing, I hate the phrase small business. There's nothing small about what you and I do, no matter what the size of your business is, right? It's big. So what is probably the biggest thing for you that impacted your drive and belief in the free market, free enterprise society?
Well, I'll tell you, when I was a young man in university, 20 years old, I was exposed to the work of two people. One of them was the writer Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand wrote some incredible books. The Fountainhead, Anthem, We the Living. But the book that I read when I was 20 years old was called Atlas Shrugged. That's an 1,100 plus page book. I read it in a week while writing a major term paper. I slept 2 hours that week, and that woman spoke to my soul. And I saw what she was talking about was that inside the breast of every human being beats the living heart of freedom. And every human being knows they were created by God to be free men, free women, with the ability to say what they want, think what they want, create what they want for themselves. And Ayn Rand gave those inchoate feelings within me voice. And man, that was incredible for me. And the second person that gave me belief in free enterprise was, in my opinion, the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln, President Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan just gave moral courage to those of us that believe in freedom. In the battle between tyranny and freedom, Ronald Reagan marshaled the English language on the side of freedom and sent it into battle, and he helped us win. And at the time that he was elected, the forces of freedom were retreat across the globe. They were even retreating across the Western world. But he, along with Margaret Thatcher and Pope John Paul II, turned that all around. And there were some beautiful speeches that he gave. I mean, the speech that he made in 1983 to the National Association of Evangelicals, where he called the Soviet Union an evil empire. Man, that woke me up. That just pumped me right up. And I thought to myself, wow, that's awesome. That's true. These guys are an evil empire. And he was criticized for it, but Reagan didn't care. I mean, that man had huge cojones, you know?
Yeah, right.
He really did. And then he made an incredible speech in 1984 on the beaches of Normandy that was written by Peggy Noonan, the famous "These are the boys of Plundock, these are the men that freed a continent." You know, I mean, just an incredible talk. And it was like, once again, standing up for the forces of freedom around the world. And then the greatest speech, in my opinion, since Lincoln's Gettysburg Address was Reagan's speech at the Brandenburg Gate, where he said to the people assembled and to Gorbachev there, Mr. Gorbachev, you know, if you believe in peace, Mr. Gorbachev, come here to Berlin, come here to the Brandenburg Gate, tear down this wall.
Yep.
I mean, everyone knows those words because they were powerful. They spoke to everything great within the human spirit. And I was in my early 20s then, and I'm like, you know, actually, I was 20 years old in 1987, 20 years old. And I just went, wow, this man is speaking truth. And that's why I became a champion, a committed champion for freedom and free enterprise. And it's interesting because, you know, Reagan and Thatcher were so good at combating the forces of socialism and tyranny, and they knew how to knock them down. And we haven't had anybody quite as good as they were in terms of rhetorically taking the battle to them. But it's a beautiful thing that even now we've got people that are standing up like yourself, putting this podcast together, standing up for local business, standing up for freedom. Because if we don't have freedom around us, we can't have the freedom to allow local business to flourish. Because the only thing that allows local business to flourish is maximizing freedom. If you start gaming the system against free enterprise, the large organizations, the large corporations, they're going to be fine because they're going to go to their lobbyists, they're going to give money to the people in power, and they're going to make it happen. It's the little guy that gets hurt. And to put it in terms of people that we want to help here, we want to help everybody, but we especially want to help communities that have been disadvantaged, minority communities. How the heck are you going to help minority communities if you don't give them belief in themselves, if you don't give them a chance to take the God-given talents that they have and a belief that it's possible? And the only way that's possible is through freedom and free enterprise. Socialism crushes minority communities, and that's why it's got to be defeated.
Yeah. So let me challenge a thought here for just a second, because I want to get the discussion on this, right? There's a lot to unpack what you said. So especially right now, right? You've got this sort of, you've got a couple of like viewpoints kind of colliding over. It's not even just right, left, one or two, black or white. It is like a couple of viewpoints coming across the path here and intersecting. You've got sort of, let's just take, for example, COVID, COVID-19. So you've got this idea that, I think we all agree COVID's a real thing. I mean, we've had someone here on our team that was diagnosed and had it. And so it's a real thing.
Okay? Are they okay?
Yeah. And she's back to work now and doing well. So thank you.
Thank God for that.
Right. So you have on this one hand, on one hand, you have people who think it's completely made up. And then you have, back to reality a little bit. You have people who understand that it's a real thing, and there's isolation. And then you've got sort of this that intersects with, isolation intersects with those that want freedom and opportunities to open back up. And then you have the economic thing, and it's all sort of dissecting or intersecting together. And so, how do you combat that? And where do you stand on that?
Well, listen, that COVID's a real thing. There's no question. It's a real thing. My father passed away at the end of February. One of the pre-existing conditions that he had, was he had heart disease, but then he couldn't breathe as well. His breath gave out. So it's very possible that COVID was in that hospital at the end of February, and he got it. Right. I don't know, but it's very possible. I've had friends who've had it myself. My friends were in their late 60s. They're both smokers, and they overcame it. But let's take a look at reality as well, right? Is COVID real? Sure. Have you had tons of people get it and die from it? 1,000%. However, have the numbers been what the authorities said to us in order to scare us into shutting the world down? Heck no, not even close. Not even close. And I understand at the beginning we didn't know, and we had to take action to save lives. I get it. But once we knew, once the actual data came in, they doubled down, saying, no, we still got to keep doing this. You know what? It's part of one of the 6 principles of influence from Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, the Principles of Persuasion, the psychology of persuasion, right?
Yes.
And one of the principles, I forget the exact name of the principle, but what it is people take actions consistent with previous actions because they don't want to be inconsistent. If you say, for example, that I'm going to put a small sign calling for, neighborhood watch in my window, then it's going to be difficult for you to say no to the sign on your lawn, and then to say no again and again to the bigger sign on your car. And these folks fell into that same trap. Once it was clear that they were wrong, they should have admitted they were wrong, and they should have said, okay, guys, we're going to find a way to start opening up. Now, some folks have done that, but a lot of folks haven't. A lot of folks doubled down. For example, the governor of Michigan doubled down. And the only way that she stopped was, when demonstrators wanted to demonstrate against police brutality. Hey, listen, I'm all for demonstrators demonstrating against issues they feel strongly about. This is a free country, and that's the beauty of it. That's how we create, a free society and perpetuate it, is when people have a real grievance. And let me tell you, I can share with you some stories about real grievances I have on that side myself.
Sure.
As a person in Iran, and as well as a Middle Easterner in the West. Having said all that, why the heck wouldn't she let people demonstrate to open up the economy? And she tried to throw them in jail.
Right.
That shows me she's a hypocrite, and that she's willing to do things to keep herself in power versus do things to actually help the people. And that's not right. That's not right. So COVID's a real thing, but COVID basically right now is contained, and we need to start figuring out a way to open up our economy and stop pretending that, hey, no, COVID's gonna all of a sudden get a million times worse. Well, the people who decided to demonstrate against police brutality obviously didn't believe that, and the people in power obviously didn't believe in it strongly enough to say, no, you can't demonstrate. So, hey, if that's the case,
that's a good point.
Let's start opening up.
That's a good point, because if they did believe in it long enough, that would have been the reason not to go allow the demonstration. But that never became the narrative of the demonstration. And in fact, and I'm kind of making your point, and then I'm going to argue the point, like I'm playing the interviewer, right? So in fact, if that's the case, and if everything we've been told is accurate, then we should see spikes in those cases in Minneapolis and Washington, D.C. and Atlanta and some of the places that the biggest protests were. We should see spikes in COVID then, because all of these people gathered together in massive numbers if all of the ways that it transmits is accurate, we should see spikes in that, right? Or right,
spikes, because you had tens of thousands of people in each of those cities. Think about it. They're saying you can't even gather with 5 or 10 people, and now you've got 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 people in 200 plus cities around the United States and all over the world that gathered. So if we don't see a huge worldwide global spike on COVID, excuse my French, but shut the heck up, health authorities, and let us get back to work.
Yeah. So this is where this becomes this interesting time, right? Because I think the reality is, and as we talk about freedoms, right? And listen, the ability to stay home and make the choice not to open your office or not to go to work or whatever, or not to go to an event, that's still the choice. But then you take the choice away from everyone else to not go, right? That's the other side of the argument. So then you don't allow anyone to open up and do anything, and everyone's to quarantine and to isolate. So now you've taken that, and it's that whole perception of giving up your freedom and your liberty for the perception of safety and security, and in the end, you'll have neither, because you won't have the safety or protection, and you won't have the freedom or liberty. So you've given up both.
You're quoting Benjamin Franklin.
I mean, he's a pretty smart guy.
Look, in my opinion here, freedom, Ronald Reagan said freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be protected. It needs to be fought for. It needs to be taught to the next generation. It doesn't just pass on in the bloodstream, okay? And I want to show you a couple of books that I think everyone needs to understand these books and needs to do something to really bring these books into the mainstream of thinking about how to create a free society. Now, this is a business show, and we're not really talking about business too much. We should get back to that.
We really are, because it is the foundation of business, quite honestly.
No, agree. Philosophy is the foundation of business.
Right.
These are 2 books that everyone who believes in freedom needs to read. One is called Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. Okay, you need to understand what the forces of socialism and what the forces that are against free enterprise are doing right now in our society to try and turn things around and against us. And this other one is called Willing Accomplices, how the KGB covert influence agents created political correctness, right? And destabilized America. This is an important book written by a former CIA agent. Do I agree with everything the guy says? No, but there's a lot of truth in that it's important that we understand that there have been people that have decided they want to change this society and they want to fight for socialism, for a different way of life than freedom and free enterprise. And we need to understand how they're playing the game. And then the other books, everyone should read Atlas Shrugged, but everyone else should read Milton Friedman. They need to read Capitalism, Freedom. Yes. They need to read Friedrich Hayek's book, The Road to Serfdom. I have that, but not anywhere handy with me. You need to read books like David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. Actually, I've got my son reading it right now. Otherwise, I'd show it. You need to read books written by folks like Jocko Willink to show you how to have strength and create freedom within yourself. You need to read my books. You need to listen to my podcast and this podcast. People need to do all that in order to have the strength to be able to go forward and create the life and the business that they want to create. That's why I do what I do. I'm all about helping people be successful and get paid. Listen, if someone's listening to this show and they believe in the type of philosophy that we're talking about, and they want to get paid big time, they need to know who Nicky Billou is. They need to know who Chaz Wilson is. They need to find out how we do that. They need to start interacting with us and doing our programs so they can take their business, their life, their company, their vision for what's best for their family and their community to the next level.
So let me transition to something that you said. So earlier you talked about, and you listed a whole slew of names of people. And a while back you were talking about Ronald Reagan. I'm just going to use that as an example because Ronald Reagan, in many ways, of a certain ideology, was seen as a thought leader, right? And so in business, right? Business, there are thought leaders. So to help me understand the difference, and you talk about this, right? This is what you teach as being a thought leader. First of all, why is being a thought leader important, and what's the difference between an expert and a thought leader?
So an expert is someone who knows something. A thought leader is someone who's known for knowing something. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between expert and a thought leader. Experts are a dime a dozen. There's a lot of experts out there. There's very few thought leaders out there. Experts don't make a lot of money. Thought leaders make a ton of money. Experts don't have much of an impact or influence. Thought leaders have massive impact and huge influence. You much rather be a thought leader versus just a plain old expert.
Why does that matter in business?
Well, if you're known for something in business,
right,
and you're like the best or one of the very best at what you do, you then become the person that's the go-to person in your space. There's a thought leader I follow called Patrick Bet-David. He has a channel called Value 10. He's actually a fellow Persian.
He was just on my show a couple weeks ago.
You need to introduce me to him, man. I love that guy. I'd like to bring him on my show.
Yeah, he was great.
Please introduce us.
Yes.
Patrick's amazing. And he talked about Roger Stone's 4 stages of fame. Who? Get me Roger Stone. Get me someone like Roger Stone. And then who again? So people go through the phase of nobody knows you. You get known for being the best. And then people want someone like you and then being irrelevant. The important thing is, as a thought leader, to keep working on your expertise, keep creating that expertise and taking it to a whole new level. If I may, for a second here, I want to show you something I created, okay?
Yes.
So, working with a former partner of mine inside eCircle, we created this phenomenal program, right? And this is our workbook for that program around thought leadership. We start showing people, who are you? Why are you here? Right? Like, what is it that you're all about? What's your superpower? What's your kryptonite? Then we start looking at the stages of thought leadership, and moving it forward. And inside, and by the way, not all of this stuff is mine per se. I actually learned this from Matt Church, who created Thought Leaders Global out of Australia. But this is a revenue model based on martial art belt levels.
Oh, wow. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So he created this. So white belt's 10 grand a month, black belt 60 grand a month, and then you go higher than that. So
that's interesting.
We want people to go from white belt or even below white belt, clear belt, all the way to black belt within a 3-year timeline. So I'm not about getting rich quick. I'm not going to promise you do my program in 6 weeks, you're going to be a multi-gazillionaire. But I am promising anyone and everyone that if they come and they say, okay, Mr. Nicky Billou, I'm gonna follow you, that if they follow us within 3 years, we'll get them from here or below to at least here.
And what is that number? It's hard to see the black belt.
That's black
720,000.
60 grand a month.
Yep.
60 grand a month. So when Matt Church created this, he said that this vision came to him from putting together the U.S. military's version of belts. Because in Japan, prior to 1945, there was only white belt and black belt. So the problem was it was hard for people to go from white belt to black belt. A lot of white belts tried to do black belt moves and they'd get killed. So the U.S. military created the belt levels, and they reliably could take you from a novice to a black belt in 18 to 24 months. So again, not get to black belt quick, but if I could tell you in 24 months, I'm going to make a black belt out of you, and you were interested in having those kinds of skills, you'd sign up. And that's what we say thought leadership can do for you.
So that's what you do at eCircle Academy.
You got it, man. It's versus, oh my God, go do this course, and I promise you that within 6 weeks you're going to be a gazillionaire. That's garbage. That's what people that I call charlatan marketers say, man. That's never going to be possible. That's never going to happen. I mean, there's once in a while that black swan type of confluence of events that happens for some people. For example, Joe Rogan with his podcast went from never having a podcast to being the number 2 podcast in the world. But Joe Rogan was a reality TV star. Joe Rogan had been doing all the stuff he'd been doing with MMA. Joe Rogan was a comedian. He was a known dude, man. He already had millions of followers. So boom, for him, that was an overnight thing. But for you to become Joe Rogan, man, that's going to be a whole different ballgame. You're not going to become a Joe Rogan type guy in 6 weeks. To become Joe Rogan, it might take you 6 years or even 16 years. But if that's what you want and you're willing to follow the steps to get you, that's a beautiful thing. And that's why we believe thought leadership's important, because thought leadership's the long game, not the fast game, not the short game.
Man, gosh, powerful. And I think that's the point of when you said it's the expert is knowing something, and then the thought leaders being known for knowing something is entirely it. And especially for local business, I mean, you could dominate. You don't have to be, at least my opinion, and tell me about this. So thought leader locally versus thought leader nationally or internationally. I mean, if you're a local business and you become the thought leader locally, you can dominate your whole space.
You totally can, man. You totally can. Look, I had a fitness trainer, okay? A fitness trainer that I started up with who made less than $18,000 a year. We took him to $2.5 million a year in the greater Toronto area. Think about that.
Yeah.
$2.5 million a year in the greater Toronto area, a fitness trainer. How many fitness trainers do you know who make $150,000, never mind $2.5 million a year? Not many.
Right.
Not many, right? And what's possible out of being a thought leader is like Kevin Kelly wrote a beautiful article 12 years ago called 1,000 True Fans. And it came from the music industry. And in this article, Kevin Kelly basically said, let me see if I can grab it because I think I printed it off and I read it the other day. He basically said that, hey, guys, nope, wrong one. So he said that basically, guys, you don't need more than 1,000 true fans to make a great living. If you are an artist, like, a musician, 1,000 true fans is $100,000 a year if they spend $100 on you. But for us, if I don't even need 1,000 true fans,
no,
I need 100 true fans spending $10,000 a year with me. That's $1 million, right? Now, 1,000 true fans spending $10,000 a year with me, that's $10 million a year. It's a beautiful thing. It truly is. And becoming professionally famous is so much better for you than the pie in the sky goal of becoming famous, period.
And it's important to understand that how to do that. First of all, there's a process and a formula to do that. I mean, we look at people sometimes as, again, we may value them, or I've got people I follow. I admire what they've done. That was the word I was thinking. I admire what they've done, but yet there's a process and a formula. Most of them didn't do it by accident. They didn't do it by, like you said, what looks like an overnight success. There was a lot of underlying foundation and work, and most of them are purposeful and intentional about becoming that position, that spot, that thought leader. And so that's why it's important to work with somebody like Nicky in the eCircle Academy to understand how to do that and take that steps. How do they find you right now if they have an interest in learning more about that, and how do they connect with you?
So there's a couple of really easy ways to find me. One is go to ecircleacademy.com. And if you put that in your show notes.
Yes, we will. We'll add that.
So there is a number of buttons there that they can take advantage of. One is to just jump on a call. And we offer those still right now, complimentary, what we call success calls. Anybody can request one of those, and then they fill out an application form. And if it's appropriate, then we'll confirm it with them and say, yes, we'll have the call with you. But that's 45 minutes of time, basically, to help any entrepreneur who has a vision to take their company, their business to the next level, can take advantage of that. Now, please, I'm going to say this. Be serious about that. Don't just be someone who says, you know what, I want to kick a tire. Be serious and say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm ready to go to the next level. If that's you, take advantage of it. Then we offer a couple of freebies. There's another button there to watch a masterclass. And that masterclass on that website is almost an hour long and really just outlines some of the principles you and I have been talking about in greater detail. So I said, they're both free. Like, this is easy. Now, there's another thing that is a button there, which is for a free report on, if you're a coach or a consultant, how to take 6 steps to grow your coaching consulting business. But I decided to, during these COVID times, offer this book, my latest book, a downloadable version of it, for free.
Love it.
This goes to ecircleacademy.com/TLJ for Thought Leaders Journey, TLJ. If anyone clicks on that link, they will get this book for free. This is a $25 book that you can get for free. Now, if you want, a hard copy, then you got to buy it. I'm not going to ship that to you. And if you want me to sign it, sure, I'll do that for you, but you got to go and find me and do that. And to get in touch with me, I've got another website called Nicky, NICKY360.com. My good friend Ray Perez, shout out to him, created the 360 platform. The 360 platform is everything about me. My podcast, all the books I've written. There's a button there that says contact for Nicky. You can go on there and you can, send me an email, send me a text, tell me I want to buy your book and have it signed. All that's available there. And if I can just say the last thing, I mean, this is going to sound self-serving as hell, and it is, but it's also a real thing from my heart. Our main thought leadership programs have been premium priced, all premium priced, $10K to $100K.
Right.
We have now created a version during these COVID times, which will give a chunk of that to people and really help get them going for a much better price. Only $1,497.
Wow.
That's eCircleacademy.com/just TL. And if someone's like loving what I've heard and they go, you know what, I need what you got, and they're like ready to invest in themselves, that is the cheapest way to interact with us. We usually start at $10K to upwards of $100K. And in fact, we've had clients pay us upwards of $250,000 to work with us based on us getting them some really huge results. Those are the things that I highly recommend anyone who's listening to this take advantage of. Take advantage of all the free stuff I'm giving you. And if you want to pay for something that'll give you at least a tenfold return, then take advantage of that too.
Whew. We covered a lot, man. We covered a lot. Appreciate you being on the show today. I mean, I think it's important, guys. We'll put all those links in the show notes. We'll definitely put those in there. I think it's important to just remember a couple of things in this time, and I'm going to wrap with this statement here. You know, Nicky and I talked about a lot of things, and there's there's 90% of the stuff, let's say we agree on, and then there's 10% we don't agree. That's fine. And I think in this time, what's happened is the division is, if we disagree on something, then let's divide. And that's the reality is, whether it be political view, religious view, economic views, whatever that is, there's often, when we find we're face to face with somebody, we find there's more in common than what divides us. And I would encourage people in this time, you're going to hear things with people, you're going to interact with people, and what you'll see in the media right now is a lot of shake it up and divide and warfare against, whether it be classes and races and all this stuff. Just stop for a second.
Amen, brother.
Stop for a second and listen and think about, boy, does that really match the people I know? Or does that match the things about someone I've heard, or whatever it might be? That's the power of what we teach in networking, is to build the relationships, to understand. When someone says, oh boy, did you hear about Nicky, this, that, and the other? Well, gosh, that's not the Nicky I know. Right? I mean, that's the whole power of the relationship building. So as you listen to these podcasts and these things at this time, just remember, the relationship's what matters. Turn off the TV, turn off all the garbage, be a producer of positivity, not a consumer of chaos. Okay, that's the powerful piece right now. And for all of you listening today, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Connect, Share, Prosper with my guest, Nicky Billou. Nicky, thank you for being on the episode today. Appreciate you. And guys, every Monday, noon Central, I bring people like Nicky, positive, powerful entrepreneurs, leaders, thought leaders, who are going to share their successes, the struggles, the ups, the downs. So join us next Monday right here on the Master Network's homepage, Facebook page, for another episode of Connect, Share, Prosper. Until then, everyone, be well, stay positive.
Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.